The alarm bells rang across New Geneva Station, cutting through the quiet hum of the diplomatic outpost like a knife through silence. Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency signal reached his quarters. He set down his cup and walked quickly to the main command center. The massive viewing screen showed 12 alien ships hanging in space like deadly predators. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their dark hulls gleamed with strange energy patterns that made Jake's eyes water when he looked directly at them. "They arrived 10 minutes ago," said Lieutenant Amy Collins, her voice tight with worry. "No warning, no communication request, they just appeared." Jake studied the alien formation. He had seen pictures of Galactic Council ships before, but never this many together, never this close to human space. "Any idea what they want?" Before Amy could answer, the main communication array crackled to life. A deep, rumbling voice filled the command center. The words came through the universal translator, but the tone was clear enough in any language. "Humans of the species designation. Earth Prime, you will respond immediately. The Galactic Council demands your attention." Jake straightened his uniform and nodded to the communication officer. "Open a channel." The screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead council ship. The creature speaking was unlike anything Jake had seen before. It stood nearly 9 feet tall, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shift like liquid metal. 4 arms emerged from its torso, each ending in hands with too many fingers. Its eyes were solid black without any white or iris that Jake could see. "I am High Chancellor Vexen of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. "I speak for the Galactic Council in this matter. You are Commander Morrison of this pathetic human outpost." "That's correct," Jake replied, keeping his voice steady. "Though I wouldn't call New Geneva pathetic. We've worked hard to build good relationships with our neighbors." Something that might have been laughter came from the alien's throat. "Relationships. Yes, that is why we are here, human. Your species has become a problem." The screen split to show other members of the council. Jake recognized some of them from diplomatic files. There was Thokrin, the Krillian War Master, whose species looked like walking mountains of red stone. Next to him sat Zixful, a Mindari elder whose thin, pale form seemed to glow with inner light. The others were equally alien and equally intimidating. "What kind of problem?" Jake asked. High Chancellor Vexen moved closer to his communication device. "Your species expands too quickly. In the past century, you have claimed 17 new star systems. You build colonies and mining stations without asking permission from those who have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. We've been careful to avoid systems claimed by other species," Jake said. "All our colonies are in previously empty space." "Empty space," repeated Thokrin, his voice like grinding rocks. "There is no empty space, human. All space belongs to those strong enough to claim it. Your species is not strong enough." The Mindari elder Zixful spoke for the first time. When he did, Jake felt a strange tingling in his head, as if someone was gently touching his thoughts. "We have observed your species for some time, human Morrison. Your minds are chaotic and unpredictable. You think in ways that disturb the natural order of things. We think differently than you do," Jake admitted. "But that doesn't make us dangerous, doesn't it?" High Chancellor Vexen's black eyes seemed to bore into Jake's soul. "In 50 of your years, you went from having no space travel to building faster-than-light engines. In another 50 years, you had colonies on dozens of worlds. Most species take thousands of years to achieve what you have done in 1 century. "We learn quickly," Jake said. "Too quickly," rumbled Thokrin. "Your rapid growth threatens the stability that has kept peace in this galaxy for millennia. The Council has decided that your expansion must stop." Jake felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. "What exactly are you saying, High Chancellor?" Vexen straightened to his full height. "The Galactic Council hereby orders the human species to surrender all territorial claims. Beyond your home system of Sol, you will recall all colonies and outposts. You will submit to Council oversight of all future activities. You have 60 standard days to comply, and if we refuse, The answer came not in words but in action. Thokrin gestured with one massive hand, and the screen showed a large asteroid floating in space near the Council fleet. A beam of pure energy lanced out from his ship, striking the rock. For a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the asteroid simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or broken apart, it was gone completely, as if it had never been there at all. That demonstration consumed less than 1% of 1% of my ship's power, Thokrin said. We have weapons that can crack planets like eggs and turn stars into cold, dead rocks. Your entire species could be erased from existence in a single day. Jake kept his expression neutral, but his mind was racing. The display of power was beyond anything humanity could match. Their largest weapons might destroy a city or damage a ship, but nothing like what he had just witnessed. 60 days, High Chancellor Vexton repeated. Comply or face extinction. There will be no negotiation. There will be no compromise. You will submit or you will die. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, the command center crew worked quietly, trying to process what they had just heard. Get me a direct line to Earth, Jake said. Priority Alpha Communications? I need to speak with President Carter immediately. While the communication systems worked to establish the connection, Jake walked to the observation deck. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the Council fleet hanging in space like dark omens. 60 days to surrender everything humanity had built among the stars or face complete annihilation. The connection to Earth came through faster than usual. President Alex Carter's face appeared on the secure communication screen, his expression grim. I've been briefed on the situation, Commander. How bad is it? As bad as it gets, sir. They're not bluffing about their capabilities. I watched them erase an asteroid like it was made of dust. President Carter was quiet for a long moment. I'm calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Coalition. We need to consider all our options. What options do we have against that kind of power? Jake asked. I don't know yet, the president admitted, but we've faced impossible odds before. Humanity has a way of surprising people. The connection ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. 60 days to somehow find a way to survive against a force that saw his entire species as nothing more than an annoying pest to be crushed on Earth. The news of the Council's ultimatum spread quickly despite government attempts to control the information. In homes and offices around the world, people watched the recorded footage of the Council's demonstration. Parents held their children a little tighter. Scientists worked frantically to find some weapon or technology that might help. Military leaders studied tactical reports that all came to the same conclusion: humanity was hopelessly outmatched, but in hidden facilities that existed on no official maps. Other people were making different preparations. Dr. Nina Walsh received a coded message at her laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps. General Ryan Brooks sent encrypted orders to commanders whose names appeared in no public records. Around the world, systems that had been waiting in darkness for decades began to wake up. Jake remained on the observation deck, watching the alien ships. 60 days to surrender or die. But as he looked at those impossibly powerful vessels, he found himself thinking about something President Carter had said. Humanity had a way of surprising people. Perhaps it was time for the galaxy to learn just how surprising humans could be. 23 days had passed since the Council's ultimatum. Captain Lisa Hamilton stood in the shuttle bay of New Geneva Station, checking her diplomatic credentials one final time. In her briefcase were the documents that would supposedly save humanity from extinction, or so the Galactic Council believed. The shuttle ride to the Council's command ship felt longer than usual. Lisa had made this journey many times over the past 3 weeks, each meeting more tense than the last. But today was different. Today she carried humanity's complete surrender. The docking bay of the Zephyrian flagship was vast enough to hold a small city. Lisa's tiny shuttle looked like a toy among the massive alien vessels parked there. Armed guards escorted her through corridors that seemed designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. High Chancellor Vexton waited in the main conference chamber. along with the other council members. The room was circular, with the aliens arranged around the edges, looking down at a small platform in the center where Lisa would have to stand. Everything about the setup was meant to show who held the power here. Captain Hamilton, the High Chancellor said, his voice echoing in the large space. You have requested this final meeting. I assume you bring your species' surrender. Lisa stepped onto the platform and opened her briefcase. I do, Your Excellency. Humanity accepts the Council's terms. She activated a holographic display that showed Earth's complete military roster. 500 starships appeared in the air above the platform, each one carefully detailed. Personnel records followed 50 million trained military members, their ranks and specializations clearly listed. Thokren, the Krillian War Master, leaned forward to study the display. This is everything? Your entire military force? Yes, Lisa replied. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess. As you can see, we pose no real threat to the Council's authority. The silicon-based Christek overlord Vexeneth made a sound like grinding metal that might have been laughter. 500 ships. We expected more from a species that has spread to 17 star systems. Our expansion was mostly civilian, Lisa explained. Mining operations, agricultural colonies, research stations. We never built a large military because we believed in peaceful coexistence. Admiral Gurgoth of the Aquatic Depth Lords studied the holographic ships with obvious contempt. Your largest vessel carries barely 2,000 crew members. My personal yacht is larger than your flagship. We understand that our technology is primitive compared to yours, Lisa said. That's why we're surrendering rather than fighting a war we cannot win. High Chancellor Vexton walked around the platform examining the military display from different angles. And your colonies? Your mining operations? Your research stations? Lisa activated another section of the hologram. We have already begun the recall process. All non-essential personnel are being evacuated to Earth. Military outposts are being abandoned. Within 30 days, human presence outside the Sol system will be reduced to minimal diplomatic posts only. The ancient sage Yuthril had remained quiet throughout the presentation. Now he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of thousands of years. You seem remarkably calm for a species facing extinction, Captain Hamilton. Lisa met his gaze steadily. We are a practical people, Elder Yuthril. When faced with superior force, we adapt rather than waste lives in futile resistance. Adapt? Repeated Yuthril thoughtfully. An interesting choice of words. The Mindari elder Zixful closed his glowing eyes, and Lisa felt the familiar tingling sensation as he probed her thoughts. After a moment, he opened his eyes and looked puzzled. Your mind is unusually organized, Captain. Most humans we have examined show chaotic thought patterns, but yours is almost structured, disciplined. I've had diplomatic training, Lisa said simply. Mental discipline is required for interspecies negotiations. High Chancellor Vexton dismissed the holographic display with a wave of his hand. Very well, your surrender is accepted. Human. Military forces will be restricted to the Sol system. All colonies will be evacuated within the remaining 37 days. The Council will station monitoring ships at key locations to ensure compliance. Understood, Lisa replied. Is there anything else the Council requires? One final demonstration, Thokren said, standing up from his seat, so that your species fully understands the consequences of any future disobedience. The chamber's main viewing screen activated, showing a barren moon orbiting a distant planet. Lisa recognized it as Kepler 442c, a world that had been considered for human colonization but ultimately rejected due to its harsh environment. Thokren's ship fired a single pulse of energy. The moon didn't explode or break apart, it simply stopped existing, leaving nothing behind but empty space and confused orbital mechanics around the planet. Your entire species has just witnessed the power of one council vessel, High Chancellor Vexton announced. Remember this moment when you consider whether to honor your surrender? Lisa nodded calmly. We will remember, Your Excellency. As she prepared to leave, Elder Yuthril approached her. Captain Hamilton, may I ask you something in private? The other council members seemed surprised by this request, but High Chancellor Vexton gestured his permission. Yithril led Lisa to a smaller chamber connected to the main conference room. In my many centuries of observing species, I have learned to recognize certain patterns, the ancient sage said. Fear, anger, desperation. These emotions have distinct qualities that experienced minds can detect. But you, Captain Hamilton, show none of these things. Should I be afraid? Lisa asked. Any rational being facing the extinction of their species should show some emotional response, Yithril replied. Yet you remain calm, almost resigned. This suggests either complete acceptance of defeat or what, Elder? Or knowledge that defeat is not actually possible. Yithril studied her carefully. Which is it, Captain Hamilton? Lisa smiled for the first time during the meeting. I suppose we'll find out in 37 days, won't we? Back. On Earth, the evacuation of human colonies had become the largest logistical operation in the species' history. Transport ships moved constantly between worlds, carrying colonists and equipment back to the Sol system. To outside observers, it looked like the complete retreat of a defeated civilization, but in the depths of the Sahara Desert, something else was happening. Dr. Nina Walsh stood in a control room that officially didn't exist, watching technicians prepare systems that have been dormant for 50 years. The facility was built inside a mountain, with walls thick enough to withstand nuclear attacks and shield any energy signatures from curious sensors. Status report, she said to her chief. Engineer, Dr. Paul Martinez. Phase generators are at 60% capacity and climbing, Paul replied. We should reach full operational status within 12 hours. And the other sites? Antarctic Station reports ready? Lunar Base 7 is online. The orbital platforms are still showing minor calibration issues, but nothing that can't be resolved. Nina nodded, making notes on her tablet. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at control panels filled with technology that looked nothing like anything the Galactic Council had cataloged as human. Capability, General Ryan Brooks entered the control room, his expression serious but not worried. The last evacuation ships have left the outer colonies. As far as anyone watching can tell, we're in full retreat. How many people know the truth? Nina asked. Outside of authorized personnel? Maybe 1,000 individuals worldwide. Everyone else believes exactly what they're supposed to believe. Nina looked at the main display screen, which showed a map of human space with red indicators marking abandoned colonies and retreating ships. To any outside observer, humanity was clearly a broken species accepting defeat. 37 days, she said quietly. 37 days, Ryan agreed. Think the council suspects anything? If they did, we'd already be dead, Nina replied. Elder, Yithril might have some doubts, but doubt isn't the same as knowledge. On the lunar surface, Commander Jake Morrison walked through a facility that had been disguised as a simple research station for decades. The corridors were filled with personnel wearing uniforms that bore no resemblance to the standard human military designs the Council had been shown. How long until the masking systems are fully operational? He asked Colonel Betty Foster, who was overseeing the final preparations. 18 hours, she replied. Once we're active, we'll be completely invisible to Council sensors. They could park a ship right next to us and never know we're here. Jake nodded, watching technicians work on equipment that seemed to bend light around itself. And the fleet? Dispersed and hidden throughout the system. When the time comes, we'll have more firepower in the Sol system than the Council has ever seen in one place. Colonel Foster paused in her work. Do you think they'll actually try to attack us when they discover the truth? Probably, Jake said. The question is whether they'll be able to adapt fast enough to survive the surprise. As the 37-day deadline approached, humanity appeared to be a defeated species, reduced to a single star system and completely outmatched by superior alien technology. The Galactic Council prepared to establish permanent monitoring stations to ensure human compliance with their surrender terms. The Council's invasion fleet arrived at the Sol system exactly on schedule. High Chancellor Vexton stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the sensor readings with satisfaction. Everything appeared exactly as expected, a defeated human. Species waiting quietly for their new masters to arrive. "Sensor report," he commanded. "All readings confirm human compliance, Your Excellency," reported the scanner operator. "We detect the same 500 ships they declared, positioned in defensive formations around Earth. No additional vessels. No hidden weapons platforms, no signs of resistance preparation." Thokran joined the High Chancellor at the main viewing screen. They learned wisdom quickly. Most species attempt some form of futile resistance before accepting their fate. "Perhaps humans are more intelligent than we initially believed," Vexton replied. "Intelligence without power is still helpless, but it makes occupation easier when the conquered species cooperates." The Council fleet was impressive even by galactic standards. 250 warships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. The combined firepower represented the accumulated military might of 12 ancient civilizations. No species in recorded history had ever faced such overwhelming force. Admiral Gurgoth's ship took position near Earth's moon, his sensors sweeping the lunar surface. The moon appears to be nothing more than a barren rock, as expected. Humans never developed the technology to build significant installations there. In the hidden lunar facility, Commander Jake Morrison watched the alien ships through screens that should have been impossible to conceal from Council sensors. Around him, technicians worked calmly at control stations, their faces showing concentration rather than fear. "Phase generators are at maximum efficiency," reported Colonel Betty Foster. "Council sensors are reading exactly what we want them to read." Jake activated his communication system, sending a coded signal to facilities across the solar system. The message was simple, a single word that would change the course of galactic history: begin. The transformation started slowly. What had appeared to be empty space around Jupiter suddenly shimmered, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The shimmer spread, revealing structures that should not have existed. Massive shipyards emerged from dimensional phase, their construction bays filled with vessels that dwarfed anything in the Council. Fleet. High Chancellor Vexton stared at his sensor displays in confusion. "What is happening? These readings cannot be correct." "Sir," the scanner operator said, his voice shaking, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are appearing everywhere, thousands of them." The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter began to unfold like a mechanical flower. What the Council had catalogued as random space rocks revealed themselves as camouflaged military installations. Mining platforms that had appeared primitive and industrial suddenly bristled with weapons that made Council technology look ancient. "Impossible," whispered Thokran. "Our surveys showed nothing but worthless rocks in that region." On Earth's surface, the transformation was even more dramatic. Dr. Nina Walsh stood in her control room, watching as cities that had seemed normal from space revealed their true nature. Buildings that had looked like simple civilian structures were actually the upper levels of massive underground complexes. Parks and forests were camouflaged launch sites for spacecraft that had been hidden beneath artificial terrain. "Phase shift complete," reported Dr. Paul Martinez. "All installations are now visible to Council sensors." Nina activated the main communication array. "This is Dr. Nina Walsh to all facilities. Protocol 7 is now active. Show them what humanity really looks like." The moon, which Council sensors had dismissed as a barren satellite, began to change. Its surface cracked open in perfectly straight lines, revealing the largest single military installation the galaxy had ever seen: weapons. Platforms the size of cities rose from hidden chambers. Launch bays opened to release fighter squadrons that numbered in the tens of thousands. Admiral Kate Foster emerged from what the Council had believed to be humanity's primary command vessel. But as her ship revealed its true form, expanding from a modest cruiser into a dreadnought larger than the Council flagship, her voice reached every alien vessel in the system. "Greetings, Council forces. I am Admiral Kate Foster of the Human Defense Fleet. What you have seen of humanity until now represents approximately 1% of our actual capabilities. We had hoped that coexistence would be possible. High Chancellor Vexton struggled to process what his sensors were telling him. The human fleet had grown from 500 ships to over 50,000 in a matter of minutes. Personnel readings that had shown 50 million military members now registered over 5 billion active operatives. How is this possible? He demanded. Our surveys, our intelligence, our observations, everything showed a primitive species with limited capabilities. Admiral Foster's image appeared on the Council flagship's main screen. She looked calm and professional, nothing like the desperate, representative of a doomed species that the Council had expected to find. You observed exactly what we wanted you to observe, Your Excellency, she said. Humanity learned long ago that the greatest advantage in any conflict is being underestimated by your opponents. The revelation continued to unfold across the solar system. Star systems throughout the galaxy that the Council had thought empty suddenly came alive with human activity. Colonies that had been officially evacuated revealed themselves to be fully operational, their populations hidden using the same dimensional phase technology that had concealed the fleet. General Ryan Brooks appeared on communication channels throughout Council space, addressing not just the invasion fleet but the entire Galactic Council infrastructure. For the past 2 centuries, humanity has existed in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. What you have catalogued as our civilization is merely the visible layer, the 1% we allowed you to see. Dr. Nina Walsh's breakthrough was finally revealed to the galaxy. Humans had learned to manipulate quantum probability on a massive scale, existing in spaces between normal reality where conventional sensors could not detect them. Every piece of technology that had seemed primitive was actually sophisticated. Misdirection, designed to hide humanity's true nature, Elder Yithril, watching from the Council command ship, felt something he had not experienced in centuries, genuine surprise. They have been here all along. Not just in this system, but everywhere. How many times have we passed human installations without knowing it? The answer came from Captain Lisa Hamilton, who was no longer playing the role of desperate diplomat. We have been present at every major galactic conflict for 3 centuries, Elder Yithril. Not as observers, but as participants. We studied your weapons, your tactics, your technologies. We learned from every species in the Council, and we learned how to hide from all of you. Commander Jake Morrison's facility revealed its true scope as the lunar surface continued to unfold. What had appeared to be a simple research station was actually the nerve center of a defense network that spanned multiple star systems. Every asteroid you ignored, every gas cloud you dismissed as natural phenomena, every empty system you flew through, we were there, watching and learning. The Council fleet found itself surrounded not by hundreds of human ships, but by hundreds of thousands. Each vessel incorporated technology that challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. Ships moved through space in ways that should have been impossible, phasing in and out of reality while maintaining perfect formation. High Chancellor Vexton tried to maintain his composure, but his voice carried the first hints of uncertainty. Even if your numbers are greater than we believed, the Council's combined technology still represents thousands of years of advancement. You cannot match our accumulated knowledge. Admiral Foster's response came with a demonstration that sent shock waves through the Council fleet. A group of human ships approached one of the smaller Council vessels and simply passed through its shields as if they didn't exist. The alien crew found their ship boarded by humans who materialized directly on their bridge, having bypassed every defensive system. Your shields work on principles we mastered 50 years ago, Admiral Foster explained as her boarding teams took control of Council vessels throughout the fleet. Your weapons use energy frequencies we learned to counter decades ago. Your fastest ships move through space using methods we improved upon and then discarded as inefficient. The boarding teams were careful not to harm the alien crews, but their message was clear. Humanity could have disabled the entire Council fleet at any point in the battle, or before the battle had even begun. If you have this capability, Thokran demanded, why did you not reveal it sooner? Why hide from the Council for centuries? The answer came from President Alex Carter, broadcasting from Earth to the entire galaxy. Because we learned that sometimes the best way to protect people is to let them believe they are the strongest. The Council brought stability to the galaxy. We saw no reason to disturb that stability unless it became necessary. The full scope of humanity's deception became clear. They had not been expanding rapidly as the Council believed. They had been established throughout the galaxy for longer than any species realized. High Chancellor Vexen's mind raced as he tried to understand what had just happened. The primitive species he had come to conquer had revealed technology beyond anything the Council possessed. His invasion fleet, the pride of 12 civilizations, now sat helpless in space surrounded by ships that could phase in and out of reality at will. All vessels, withdraw immediately, he commanded through the fleet communication system. Full retreat to Council space. But, as the alien ships tried to turn away from Earth, they discovered something terrifying. Human vessels materialized directly in their path, blocking every escape route. The retreat that should have been simple became impossible. Admiral Kate Foster's voice came through the communication system again, still calm and professional. "I'm afraid we cannot allow you to leave just yet, Your Excellency. This situation requires careful discussion." "You dare hold the Galactic Council fleet prisoner?" Vexton demanded, his voice shaking with rage and fear. "We prefer to think of it as a diplomatic meeting," Admiral Foster replied. "After all, we have much to discuss about the future of galactic civilization." Across Council space, emergency sessions began in every member government. The news of humanity's true nature spread through alien communication networks faster than anyone had expected. What had seemed like a simple conquest of a primitive species had become the most significant crisis in galactic history. On the Zephyrian homeworld, military commanders stared at tactical displays that made no sense. Human ships were appearing, and systems that should have been empty, installations that had been cataloged as simple mining operations, revealed themselves as military bases capable of threatening entire star systems. "How long have they been there?" demanded General Kickstar, studying a report from the Zephyrian border regions. "Some of these installations show construction dating back centuries." "That appears to be impossible, sir," replied his aide. "Our historical records show no human presence in those systems during that time period." "Then our historical records are wrong," the general said grimly. "The question is, what else have we been wrong about?" The Krillian Empire faced similar revelations. Their military intelligence had completely failed to detect human presence in dozens of systems they considered secure. Thokran, still trapped with the Council fleet at Earth, received reports that made his stone-like skin turn an even darker shade of red. "Sir," came the message from Krillian High Command, "we are detecting human vessels throughout our territory. They appear to have been present for decades without our knowledge. Our most secret military installations have been under observation the entire time." Thokran felt something he had not experienced in his long military career: complete tactical helplessness. "How many ships do they have in our space?" "Conservative estimates suggest at least 10,000 vessels, sir. But our sensors may still be missing the majority of their forces." The Mindari, with their telepathic abilities, were perhaps the most disturbed by the revelation. Zixfo reached out with his mental powers, trying to read human thoughts as he had done during the negotiations. Instead of the chaotic, primitive minds he expected to find, he encountered something that made him recoil in shock. Human minds were not chaotic at all. They were organized, disciplined, and working together in ways that defied telepathic understanding. Worse, some of them seemed to be aware of his mental probes and were actively blocking him with techniques no species should have possessed. "They have been hiding their mental capabilities as well," he reported to the other council members through their private communication channel. "Their minds are far more advanced than we believed. They may have been aware of our telepathic surveillance from the beginning." Elder Yithril, the ancient sage who had suspected something was wrong, found himself facing the complete collapse of everything he thought he knew about galactic civilization. In his thousands of years of life, he had seen the rise and fall of dozens of species. None of them had ever successfully hidden their true nature from Council observation for so long. "Captain Hamilton," he said, opening a private communication channel to the human diplomat. "May I ask you a question?" Lisa Hamilton appeared on his screen, no longer disguised as a desperate representative of a doomed species. "Of course, Elder." "Yithril, what would you like to know?" "During our negotiations, I sensed that you were hiding something. But I assumed it was fear or desperation. I never imagined it was confidence. How long has your species been capable of this deception?" Lisa smiled, and for the first time, Yithril could see the intelligence that had been hidden beneath her diplomatic mask. "Since before we made first contact with the Council, Elder, we learned about galactic civilization by watching and listening for decades before we announced our presence. We knew that appearing weak would be safer than revealing our true capabilities." "Safer? For whom?" Yithril asked. "For everyone," Lisa replied, "including the Council species. Power struggles destroy civilizations, Elder Yithril. We preferred to let you believe you were in control while we worked quietly to prevent the various threats that could have ended galactic civilization entirely." Before Yithril could ask what she meant by threats, alarms began sounding throughout the Council fleet. High Chancellor Vexen's attention was drawn to a new development that made the situation even worse. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're receiving emergency signals from Council space. Multiple member worlds are reporting unusual activity." The main screen showed feeds from across the galaxy. On the Christek homeworld, ancient orbital platforms that had been dismissed as derelict were suddenly coming online, revealing themselves to be human monitoring stations. In depth Lord territory, underwater cities that had been thought to be natural formations were rising to the surface, showing clear signs of human construction. "They are everywhere," whispered Admiral Gurgoth, his aquatic form trembling as he watched human submarines surface in his species' most sacred waters. "How long have they been in our oceans without our knowledge?" The answer came from Commander Jake Morrison, broadcasting from the lunar facility that had revealed itself to be larger than most Council space stations. "We established monitoring posts in every major system approximately 150 years ago. We have been observing and protecting galactic civilization longer than most of your current governments have existed." "Protecting?" Vexen demanded. "From what?" Dr. Nina Walsh's voice joined the conversation, her research credentials now revealed to include technologies that the Council had believed impossible. "The Void Plague outbreak in the Rigel sector 70 years ago, we contained it before it could spread beyond 2 systems. The stellar collapse in the Vega region 30 years ago, we stabilized the star before it could go supernova and destroy 12 inhabited worlds. The quantum storm that threatened to tear holes in spacetime itself 15 years ago, we redirected it into empty space where it could dissipate harmlessly." Each revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. Events they had attributed to luck or natural forces had been carefully managed by a species they had thought was primitive. Disasters that had been mysteriously averted, threats that had vanished without explanation, crises that had resolved themselves in unlikely ways, all of it had been human intervention. General Ryan Brooks appeared on screens throughout Council space, addressing not just the trapped fleet but the entire galactic community. "We have prevented 47 extinction-level events over the past century and a half. Species that exist today would be nothing but historical records if humanity had not intervened quietly and without recognition." The Galactic Council members looked at each other with growing horror. They had attempted to destroy the very species that had been keeping them alive, but High Chancellor Vexen was not ready to accept defeat, even in the face of overwhelming evidence of human superiority. His pride and his position demanded one final attempt to maintain Council authority. "Even if what you claim is true," he said, "the Council represents the combined will of 12 ancient civilizations. We will not submit to human authority, no matter how advanced your technology might be." Admiral Foster's response came with an edge of warning that had not been present before. "We are not asking for your submission, Your Excellency. We are asking for your cooperation. But if you choose to continue viewing this as a conflict rather than an opportunity for partnership, we will be forced to take more direct action. What? Direct action? Vex then challenged. The answer came in the form of a demonstration that made the destruction of asteroids and moons seem insignificant. Throughout Council space, every military installation, every government center, every communications hub suddenly found itself occupied by human personnel who had materialized without warning. The occupation was bloodless but complete. Human soldiers appeared on bridges of Council warships, in the chambers of planetary governments, in the deepest levels of secure facilities. They took no hostile action, but their presence made one thing absolutely clear: humanity could have taken control of the entire galactic civilization at any point they chose. We have been inside your most secure facilities for decades, General Brooks explained as reports of the occupation reached the trapped Council fleet. We know every secret, every plan. The Council chambers fell completely silent as President Alex Carter's words sank in. A threat from outside the galaxy, something that could end all life everywhere. High Chancellor Vexton found himself asking a question he had never thought he would need to ask. What exactly are we facing? Admiral Kate Foster's expression grew serious as she activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. At the edge of the projection, something dark was moving toward them. It looked like a shadow consuming everything in its path. We call them the Devourers, she said quietly. We first detected them 18 months ago using our deep space monitoring network. They are not a species in any sense we understand. They are something else entirely. Dr. Nina Walsh joined the presentation, her scientific credentials now revealed to include research into threats that the Council had never imagined. The Devourers consume all forms of matter and energy they encounter. Planets, stars, entire solar systems, everything simply ceases to exist when they pass through. No debris, no radiation, nothing left behind. Elder Yithro leaned forward, his ancient mind struggling to process this information. You speak as if you have encountered them before. We have, Commander Jake Morrison replied from his lunar command center. Not in this galaxy, but we have records from our original dimension. The Devourers destroyed our first home completely. Everything we knew, everyone we loved, gone. The revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. Humanity was not originally from this galaxy. They were refugees from something so terrible that it had consumed their entire universe. Captain Lisa Hamilton continued the explanation, her diplomatic mask finally completely removed. We escaped to this dimension centuries ago, just ahead of the Devourer wave. We hoped we had found safety, but long-range sensors have confirmed our worst fears. They have found us again. How long do we have? Asked Thokran, his warrior instincts taking over despite his shock. Approximately 4 years until they reach the outer edge of our galaxy, Admiral Foster replied. 6 years until they reach the core worlds where most galactic civilization is concentrated. High Chancellor Vexton stared at the approaching darkness on the display. What can be done? How do we fight something like this? You cannot fight them in any conventional sense, Dr. Walsh explained. The Devourers exist partially outside normal spacetime. Weapons that destroy matter simply feed them more energy. Shields that block energy become food for their consumption. Every defense the galaxy possesses will only make them stronger. Then how do we survive? Demanded Admiral Gurgoth, President. Carter stepped forward, his expression carrying the weight of terrible knowledge. There is one possibility. In our original dimension, we developed a theory for stopping them. But it requires something that has never been attempted before. The complete cooperation of every intelligent species in the galaxy working together as a single unified force. The Council members looked at each other with growing understanding. This was why humanity had remained hidden for so long. Not to conquer or control, but to prepare for a threat that would require unity beyond anything the galaxy had ever achieved. What kind of cooperation? Elder Yethro asked. Admiral Foster activated another display showing technical specifications that made even advanced Council technology looked primitive. We must build a galactic defense network that operates on principles beyond current physics. It requires the combined knowledge, resources, and capabilities of every species. No single civilization, not even humanity, has the ability to construct it alone. The Zephyrians possess energy manipulation technology we need for the power cores. Dr. Walsh continued, "The Krillians have developed materials that can withstand forces we must harness. The Mindari telepathic abilities are essential for the coordination network. Every species has knowledge or capabilities that are crucial to success." General Ryan Brooks appeared on screens throughout Council space, addressing the military leaders of every member species. "We have spent decades studying each of your civilizations, not to find weaknesses for conquest, but to identify strengths that could be combined for survival. The defense network we must build will require every advantage we can gather." And, if we refuse to cooperate? High Chancellor Vexen asked. Though his voice now carried resignation rather than defiance, Commander Morrison's answer was quiet but final. "Then in 6 years the galaxy will be empty space, and the Devourers will move on to consume the next galaxy they find. Every species, every world, every trace that any of us ever existed will be gone forever. The weight of the choice settled on the Council members. Work with humanity and possibly survive, or maintain their pride and face certain extinction." Surprisingly, it was Thokran who spoke first. The Krillian War Master, whose people valued strength above all else, looked directly at Admiral Foster. "What do you need from the Krillian Empire?" "Your manufacturing capabilities and your warrior traditions," she replied immediately. "We need vast quantities of specialized materials produced under conditions that only Krillian foundries can achieve. And when the Devourers arrive, we will need soldiers who understand that some battles are worth any sacrifice." One by one, the other Council members began to ask the same question. Admiral Gurgoth offered the Depth Lord's mastery of fluid dynamics and underwater construction. Vexenith pledged the Christek computational networks and silicon-based engineering knowledge. Elder Yithril was quiet for a long moment before speaking. "The Sage archives contain historical records spanning millions of years. If there are any precedents for what we face, any forgotten knowledge that might help, we will find it." Even Zixful, whose telepathic abilities had been useless against human mental defenses, recognized his role. The Mindari will provide the psychic coordination necessary to link thousands of different species and technologies into a single functioning network. High Chancellor Vexen was the last to speak. The proud leader who had come to conquer humanity now faced the reality that his own survival depended on working with the species he had tried to destroy. "The Zephyrian Empire will contribute whatever resources and knowledge you require," he said formally. "But I must ask, why should we trust that humanity will not simply use this crisis to establish permanent control over galactic civilization?" President Carter's answer came with a weariness that spoke of terrible losses in their original dimension. "Because we have already lost one galaxy to these things, Your Excellency. We know what it means to watch everything you care about disappear into absolute nothingness. We would never wish that experience on any other species." Admiral Foster added the practical perspective. "Besides, controlling a galaxy that has been consumed by Devourers offers no advantages. Dead space provides no resources, no knowledge, no meaning. We need this galaxy to survive because it is the only home any of us have left." The formal dissolution of the old Galactic Council happened surprisingly quickly once the decision was made. The ancient system of member species and voting rights was replaced by the Galactic Defense Alliance, with humanity taking a leadership role not through conquest but through necessity. Dr. Walsh began coordinating with scientists from every species, sharing technologies that the Council had thought impossible. Manufacturing worlds that had produced luxury goods were converted to building components for the defense network. Military fleets that had been preparing for war against each other instead began joint training exercises. Commander Morrison established communication links between human hidden bases and newly revealed alien installations, creating a coordination network that spanned the entire galaxy. The secret infrastructure that humanity had built over centuries became the foundation for a defense system unlike anything ever imagined. The work was massive, urgent, and unprecedented. Entire star systems were converted into construction sites. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves working side by side on projects that required absolute trust and cooperation. 3.5 years later, High Chancellor Vexton stood on the bridge of a vessel that incorporated technology from all 12 former Council species plus humanity. The ship itself was impossible by old standards. Krillian materials shaped by Zephyrian energy, controlled by Mindari telepathy, powered by human quantum manipulation. "Status report," he requested, his former arrogance replaced by grim determination. "The defense network is 97% complete," reported Admiral Foster, who now served as the Alliance's military coordinator. "All species have exceeded their resource commitments. We may actually be ready in time." Through the viewing screen, they could see the edge of the galaxy where the first Devourer scouts had begun to appear. Dark shapes that seemed to eat light itself, moving with purpose toward the core worlds where billions of beings waited to learn if their desperate alliance would be enough. "If that was only your 1%, High Chancellor Vexton said quietly, referencing the words that had changed galactic history. What happens when you show us more? Admiral Foster's response carried both hope and uncertainty. "That depends entirely on whether we choose to be partners or problems, Your Excellency. Today we find out if 13 different species can truly work as one.